We have seen some huge firms buy more and sell some GameStop. So I wanted to make this video and really just cover the most recent updates we have for the institutional shareholder list for GameStop. And then I will also go over the short interest data for the stock. And then at the end of the video, I will cover the chart and give a price prediction. So with that being said, let's start it off here. So we can see here that the Vanguard Group actually sold about a 0.5% of their shares. The Vanguard Group is still the number one shareholder at about 25 million shares. And we see BlackRock at about 22 million shares, and they sold their holdings down by about 2%. And then we see that State Street sold about 1.5% of their position. And we also can see here that Citadel was a big seller over the past quarter. So Citadel sold about 48% of their calls, and they sold about 31% of their puts. Given that they owned both calls and puts, that kind of tells you that they were really just betting on volatility. But as it stands, they currently own more calls than puts by about 400,000 worth of shares. So that is all very interesting. Citadel is still net bullish on the stock. That's definitely something notable. And then we saw Morgan Stanley actually increased its holdings by 28%. They hold about 600,000 shares now. Jane Street actually 4x their holdings, so they own about 570,000 shares now. And then we saw J.P. Morgan also sell down their holdings by about 15%. Credit Suisse bought more shares. So it is pretty interesting to kind of see what the largest investors are doing with their positions. And we can see that Charles Schwab increased their holdings by 1% as well. So that is all pretty interesting stuff there. Definitely kind of interesting to see that the largest shareholders, though, and the largest asset managers in the world are selling down some GameStop. So that is something to kind of keep your eye on here. But with that being said, let's keep it moving here. Let's move on to short interest for the stock. So the most eye-popping short interest number you can really look at for GameStop is this 20 days to cover number. And for those that don't know, basically this kind of tells you the average days of volume it would take to cover the shares that are sold short. So this 20 number tells you that it would take 20 days of average volume to cover the shares that are sold short. And we usually look for a days to cover of over 10 to signify a high likelihood of a short squeeze. Given that we're at almost 21, that definitely signals that GameStop has a decent likelihood for a short squeeze. And then short interest as a percent of float is 19%, which is almost a fifth of the stock is sold short, a fifth of the market cap. And then we can see short shares available have been declining over the past day or so. So just a day ago, we had about 300,000 shares available to be shorted, and now we're actually only at about 15,000. So that definitely signifies that there are less and less shares being able to be shorted, just over the past day. So that definitely signals, that there aren't many shorts, or there aren't many shares left to short, I should say. And then short borrow fee rate. So this is no AMC. AMC has a borrow fee rate of over 500, which is insane. But GameStop has a borrow fee rate of 4.5. For those that don't know, that basically just tells you that investors are willing to lend out their shares if they get back basically 4.5% annually. So the higher this number is, the harder it is to short the stock. And typically, like, the average short borrow fee rate is from anywhere from 0.3 to 3%. So we're really just slightly above that typical short borrow fee rate. So definitely not seeing a strong signal of a short squeeze from the short fee borrow rate. And then we can see days to cover here. Failure to deliver. So this just tells me what shares are not being delivered by short sellers back to their investors. So we can see here that that was about 2,700 shares in earlier this month, and that's kind of been pretty volatile, but not really super high at all. It's only really 103,000, $500,000 at its high over the past month in July. We saw $1.4 million worth of shares not being delivered to investors. The higher this number is, the higher likelihood a short squeeze will take place. And then we can take a step back too and just look at the average failures over a month. So we can see that in July it was 13,000, and in June it was 78. In May it was 33. So this has really came down pretty significantly. In December it was 151,000. So this has came down significantly, especially when you compare it to the 2020 days. So we can see here in 2020, in 2020 and early 2021. We saw this failure to deliver number be significantly above where we are right now, which definitely signals that the stock has kind of changed in terms of short interest, and it is really a lot less likely to have a short squeeze than it was, obviously in early 2021 and late 2020. With that being said, let's take a look at the chart here and see if we can't give a price prediction based on technical analysis. So obviously, GameStop has had a rough couple weeks here, and shares have definitely been underperforming the broader market. But we have a major support level around $15, which is where shares had bottomed in early 2023. It's also where shares had bottomed in March of this year. So I do think this $15 level, if it's tested, will likely hold for GameStop. So really what I'm seeing for the stock is that we probably continue lower, and hold this range around $16 to $15, and then move higher over the coming weeks. So that is kind of what I'm seeing for the stock, is that we see a move higher up to resistance at around $26. Really, the safest move, if you were looking to make a trade, would be to wait till we get to about $15 and then at least see a trade up to about $22, which is where the daily moving averages are currently. So I think that's really the safer move, is to kind of wait till we get some consolidation around the support level at $15, then play kind of a retracement up to this daily moving average, which sits at about $21. But as I'd pointed out, the next major level of resistance for the stock is at $27, which is where shares had topped out in mid-June. It's also where shares had topped out in March, and it's where shares had consistently found selling pressure in 2022. So I do think it's likely that the stock could have a couple more down days. But with that being said, we are oversold according to RSI, which could provide some buying support for the stock. And the last two times we were oversold was in April. We saw a move higher, and we saw a move higher also in March off of oversold levels, and we saw a move higher also in January off of oversold levels. So being oversold and coming down to this support range at about $15 to $16 has caused the stock to move higher in the past. Therefore, I think we see a continuation of that trend, and we see oversold conditions in addition to coming down to test the support level. I think that all adds up to higher prices for GameStop. And with that being said, I'll take a look at some of the seasonality trends for the stock. So this here shows me the average return by month for each stock in the market. So we can see here that in August, shares typically rise 5.5%, which is the second best month in the stock's history. So we're in a very bullish seasonal trend right now. We're actually going into September where shares typically increase in price by 3%. We're going into October where shares typically increase in price by 2.5%. So this all tells me that we're going into a bullish seasonal trend which could bode very well for the stock and cause shares to move higher over the coming weeks. So definitely, when we take a look at the historical performance for the stock, this current season is definitely in the favor of the bulls. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, let me know if you have any other tickers you would like me to cover. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll end it there. If you got some value from this video, please leave a like. We post company breakdowns and important market moving news on this channel on a daily basis, so make sure you are subscribed. If you would like to receive my daily portfolio moves, my exits, my entries, and see how me and my team of analysts are trading the markets, join the Discord through the link in the description below to get our free 7-day trial. Also, if you would like to join our free daily newsletter, sign up to our Substack, which is linked below as well. With that being said, good luck everyone. Happy trading, happy investing.